Hey, so this is a TVZ between Oldowan and Cochaotix. Cochaotix. Let's check. Sk2 ranks. Search for Cochaotix. They broke the search feature in this. Look, you can't click it. You're just like, oh, I'd like to highlight you. Let's see if zooming way in will make it work. Nope. Oh well. With this. Wait, how do you spell his name? Cochaotix. I know I'm saying ch instead of K because I'm crazy. Battle.net profile. Whoa. That's not what I wanted. Wow. Google changed. It used to be that you could do that, but now you have to do this instead. The order matters, man. So he's a gold leaguer. He's almost elite. And you did one of these passivity things, okay? So let's watch. Let's watch not from first person, but from kind of a skipping aroundy kind of way. So at 6 minutes we want 24 workers, at 8 minutes we want 30, and notice how at 8 minutes the Zerg wants 52, and you have made no units that are scary to him. So basically you're just making Marines, and they don't have stim, and there's no medevacs, and there's no Hellions. So Marines without stim or medevacs or Hellions are not a threat of attacking. So he comes over here and sees what you have and immediately adds more drones. He's got, at 9 minutes, he's got 54 drones. He's mining more than you. And you're not really trying to prevent him from mining more than you. You've got 37 workers at 10 minutes off of 2 base. This is very, very light on the worker front. And while you do have the bigger army, it's, I don't know, you're just behind. Like right now you're already behind. I feel like your plan was to sit home and get 2-2 and then push out, but you forgot the armory for a long time, so your 2-2 is going to be very delayed, and then you don't have the gas to get the plus armor. And then finally you're gonna, finally you're gonna start plus armor eventually, and so now you can't really attack until 16 minutes, but the problem is at 14 minutes and 20 seconds, if you spend all your money, you're gonna be on 200 unit space. So right now, theoretically, if you had enough workers, you'd be at 200 U right now. And that's ridiculous. You can't be waiting this long to do your first push. One thing that's very crucial to Marine-based builds is fighting often and early and with smaller forces, because when you move around a giant force like this, look how squishy this looks. A Baneling can kill like 1 million Marines here, and Fungals can hit like huge amounts of your troops. So it's not necessarily important to go a lot earlier than this. It's just that it's hard to make this like a large number of Marines engage properly with Zerg. Also, he already has 100 drones. He already has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bases, including the gold. He's already on his way to tier 3. He's getting crackling upgrade already. Like, the game is over now. It's just like TVP. If he gets a certain number of Colossus and High Templars and charge lots with armor upgrades and attack upgrades, you lose. And that's the same way TVZ works. There's just, you can't leave them alone this long. And if you do leave them alone this long, the game has to end right now with your first push. And you'll notice you do have a bigger army than him. Your army supply is 112 to his 40 and whatever. So you are capable of kind of punishing him for being so greedy by just walking in and crushing his main. But you don't even attack his main. You walk over to his gold, and that's the wrong move. So if you have already made the mistake of being crazy passive this long, you want your first attack to be a game-endingly crucial, crazy good attack, where you just walk over and kill his main. But instead, you get his attention over at the gold, you get his attention over here, and then you give him time to catch up. So before he actually fights, he's already quadrupled his army supply and has a reasonably large army relative to you. Then your units are all clumped up, so the Banelings are just going to be crazy efficient in taking them out, and then you load up your guys to do a drop with half your army is in the medevacs and half your army isn't, and then you drop straight down just like blech in a big pile. So that, again, with a big pile of dudes like this, Banelings are just going to be crazy effective. So right before the Baneling splash, you're ahead by 1,500, and as the Banelings splash into you, you're ahead by only 900. So on top of that, that was your only chance in this game. You have no chance from there, because he's got a bajillion dollars a minute coming in, 3,000, and you don't have your 3,000 income. The way that Terran multi-basing works against Zerg multi-basing is that you want to rush as quick as you can to $3,000 of income, and you want to make it take as long as possible for him to get to that same $3,000 a minute of income. It all revolves around this 3,000 number, because you can see that's what he wants to have. That's what he eventually gets to. And you never get there, so he wins the race, and there's just nothing you can do. Tier 3 also is kind of the end of the game when Zergs get Tier 3, especially with 4 freaking Evo chambers. I don't know why anyone would make 4 Evo chambers. Chitinous plating, ultras, brood lords, blah, blah, blah. You end up with, you know, Marines against things that just dominate Marines, and there's no way to win it. But clearly you just get ripped to shreds and die. So, first of all, you have a reasonably good one base against TVZ with your Thor push. That's great. I'd like you to try some of the other one bases and whatever. But if you do want to multi-base in TVZ, and I'm not saying you shouldn't. Multi-basing is fun in TVZ. There are a lot of really important features of a good 2-base. First, you need more workers. You've been cutting workers for a long time, probably because you're unfamiliar with the build. This is the only time I've seen you do it. But at 6 minutes, you want to have 24 workers that all came out of this 1 CC, and right around 6 minutes is when your second CC is finishing. So instead of the 3.5 workers per minute that you get off of that 1 CC, now you should be getting 7 SCVs per minute. So if you started with 24, you want to have 31 at 7 minutes, and obviously probably 30 at 7 minutes, because this wasn't quite done. So at 7 minutes and you have 26. That's not 31, that's much less, and that's because these 2 CCs were idle. And I feel like you probably left them idle because you were worried about getting these buildings up quickly enough and getting this quickly enough and blah, blah, blah quickly enough. It's the only time anyone ever skips workers is when they feel like they need something else more than they need workers. And that's always a false feeling, especially if you're 2-basing, because the whole point of 2-basing is to have a big economy. So if you 2-base and you end up with a smaller economy than you had when you're 1-basing, you just took $5,500 or $550 of the spending on this command center and just threw it away for not even a bigger army. So in all of your 1-base pushes, your 10-minute army was 3,000 to 3,500. And when you're 2-basing, theoretically you should have a bigger army, right? I mean, obviously in most cases you don't, because the timing window that you're going for with a 2-base push is more like 12 minutes. But at 10 minutes to have a $1,700 army, you can just kind of see how making this command center really just crippled your economy, crippled your ability to spend money on workers. So you are finishing up on 1v1 without the armory coming, and you do have medevacs on the way, and you are starting combat shields right now, but your army is just really small. So the saving grace tends to be that while a 2-basing Terran will have a smaller army at 10 minutes, they can usually get a bigger army by 12 or 14 minutes. And the big benchmark is at 13 minutes you should have 72 workers on 3 bases. Obviously you're not going to be anywhere near that. You've got 42 workers at 13 minutes instead of 72. You're short by 30. You're short by I don't even know, like 3/7, whatever the hell percentage 3/7 is. Really short on workers. And at this point your opponent is already up to 4K income. Even if you did this perfectly, you still wouldn't be able to compete with his income because he's crazy and he's got a 4K freaking income. And the reason he does that is because he knows you don't have anything scary. He's walked over here and seen what you had at the front, and it was just a bunch of not very well upgraded Marines with no medevacs and no tanks and no anything. And he's just like, you know what? I can take the whole map if I want to. And then he did. Took the whole map. So on top of having a $3,000 income at 13 minutes, you want to be capping out at 200 unit space about 1420. And if you play against nobody, if you go on to the, just play a game against a very easy AI that isn't going to do anything, and just try to max out unit space as quick as you can. You'll find that in general you tend to max out around 14 minutes and 20 seconds, or you know, close to there. Sometimes a little later, sometimes a little earlier. And in this game, you weren't really that close to maxing out at that point, and that's again just because you had 40 workers instead of 70 at this point. You did make a good number of racks. I'm happy about the number of racks you made. This is 7 racks. I always like to go with 7 racks and 3 tech buildings. It looks like you're going for 1 factory and 1 starport, which is 2 tech buildings. And your factory is basically idle, even though it has a tech lab. So this is more like 1 tech building. So you still could have used 2 more tech buildings. And you could have started these upgrades a lot quicker. You have no wall-in. This is really crucial. If he ever attacks into you, you need a wall-in to absorb the initial strike, and then behind that, it's nice if you can have a second wall-in, but even if you don't have a second wall-in, your bunkers need to be behind the first wall-in so that he doesn't even get to attack your bunkers until after he's already blown a bunch of his wad on your wall-in. This is just no wall-in at all. Anytime he chooses to attack you, if you don't have enough army to win that fight, you're going to instantly lose. And that's such a vulnerability in TVZ because he can spend his entire budget on army if he wants to. So Zergs tend to, you know, throughout the game when they don't feel super pressured, they'll be getting upgrades, they'll be getting tech, they'll be getting drones, they'll be making hatcheries, they'll be making evo chambers, they'll be making spines and spores and all these other things that aren't army. But as soon as your guys poke their little head into his vision, as soon as he sees that you're coming with your army, he's gonna switch and spend every penny he possibly can on army. So you can't do that, right? Because your infrastructure is designed to leave room for SCVs and supply depots and command centers and all the things you need to do in order to keep growing your income. So when you suddenly say, oh, I need to spend every penny on my income, you just don't have enough infrastructure to do that. Your infrastructure can support, like, this is 13 Marines at a time, times 2 is 28, 26, plus 3 medevacs. So 26 Marines and 2 medevacs. I don't know. I need to use my calculator because I'm cute that way. 26 times 50 plus 400 plus 200. $1,900 a minute of income of spending. And because your income is so crap, you actually can spend all of your income. But if you had a 3K income and a $1,900 infrastructure, you can see how it's basically impossible for you to transition into full military production. On top of that, when you do produce military, it takes a long time for it to pop out of the racks and then go somewhere useful. So Zergs, after they win a big fight, they can often go to your base and get there where you have nothing. And that's where when the wall-in comes in so extremely handy, and it becomes like a really crucial element of every Terran's play, is to be able to survive a Zerg push even though you have no units, while you're waiting for more units to pop out. You want to be alive. That is a bad thing to be. This drop was silly, just really silly. It's okay to do a Doom drop, but you want it to be a surprise. You don't want to load up a Doom drop where he can see it. He's like, he has vision of this. And then leave half your army all bunched up out in the open with the medevacs, abandoning them, and then doing it's not right. So to 2-base better, basically just prioritize workers more. Make sure you drop your mules more often. Get those upgrades quicker. Get the armory quicker. Make additional tech buildings so that you can actually spend this gas, because it's like impossible to spend all that gas with the infrastructure you have. Get your 3rd base at 10 minutes. Make a push early enough so that if he is being crazy greedy, like if you look at what he had at 10 minutes, his total army size is 800, and that is 15 lings and 3 queens. So 15 lings, right? Like if you come out with your $3,000 push that you tend to come out with, and he has 15 lings, he's dead. He's going to lose this gold, and he's going to lose the evo chambers, and he's going to have to go home. You actually have enough right now. 20 Marines and a Marauder is way more than enough to force him back. Not that I want you to push without stim. That's crazy. Stim is like totally crucial to make your army worthwhile. But it's important to. It's just like in TVP when I make the poke with my first couple of Marauders. If he has a huge army, I just go home and I might lose 2 Marines. You know. It's important to poke just in case I can kill him. And that's what the first poke in TVZ is all about. You poke out there just in case you can kill him, because if you can and you don't, then he's gonna win the game. You know, like if he was skating by with no army and taking a gold base, and you don't attack him, you lose because he gets a gold base for free with no army. It's, you know, so it's important to have those kind of, like, just in case he's doing something scary, I'm gonna poke out and see what happens, and be ready to go home, be ready to stim and run away. But yeah. Anyway, boom, boom, shakalaka laka, boom, shakalaka. So I really dislike this lack of a wall in too. This is just really silly. So lots of bad things, lots of bad things. I don't know if you're really interested in learning how to two base better, but there's tons of examples out there. Download any of the replays of anyone, and you'll see that every single Terran in the whole world gets a wall in at their natural. And any Terran who's very good is going to have either a big strong push before the 10 or 11 or 12 minute marks when mutas and infestors can come out, or they're going to have a huge number of workers, like 3OC, kind of like 72 workers at 11 minutes instead of 13, kind of massive econ focus. So yeah, you did some things right, but just conceptually, one of the death blows of Terran is not getting enough money, and that just really killed you. You couldn't have done anything to win this game after this point. You just don't have any SCVs. You don't have a third even on the way, and you don't have the upgrades you need to be aggressive right now. There's nothing you can do right now that would prevent him from having this ridiculously huge income. And once he gets that huge income disparity, he's got this 3K versus 2K. I mean, that's a huge income disparity. And at this point the game's over, and nobody's even fought. The game's already over and nothing's even happened. So it's scary business. So there's that, man. There's that.